Hi, how are you? This is Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, and this is the Mindfully Integrative Show. And I really am looking forward to you guys having a mindful chat today with Mr. Marcus Bales. And he is going to tell you about him as an author and him as a wellness advocate and many things that he's done in his journey of integrative health and kind of changing his life. So, kind of thank you so much for being on the show and taking the time. And I really am so excited about you launching your book. You said it's coming out in a week or so. And for those listeners and those watching to kind of check you out. So, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Very excited. Obviously, a week left until the book launches on May 3rd. So a lot to do, but getting to the end of a long race.
That's amazing. What is the name of your book?
Yeah, the book is called Don't Shut Up. It's a collection of stories and advice on how to overcome social anxiety. And it's my story from, a very early age suffering with severe social anxiety all the way to present day as a professional speaker, and kind of the tips and tricks that I used to overcome my social anxiety and become a better speaker in the process. So it's a very honest tale of, my struggles, my, kind of wins in life of being able to overcome that social anxiety and eventually becoming a professional speaker.
That is pretty profound. I mean, you've already, we'll have to dive into that more, but the fact that you overcame it and that you're now doing exactly what you didn't think you could ever probably do, you've just tackled it on a daily basis. So that's pretty cool. What's your fun fact that maybe someone may not know about you? That
Yeah.
that maybe
Uh,
it's in the book or maybe it's not, but something you would like to share real quick. Just something fun.
so if you do choose to read the book, you'll find out that an interesting thing about me is I've actually been also running haunted houses for the last 15 years. So in conjunction with professional
You
speaking
wouldn't
and
see me there.
yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh no, I'm not into haunted houses," but I really love it. I've been doing it, for a very long time now, and it's one of those things that is just kind of a creative outlet for me.
Oh, is that
And
where you do the
actually,
voiceovers and stuff?
yeah, yeah, and a
Oh my
lot of
gosh. Yep.
that,
You wouldn't see me there. Nope.
yeah, a lot of that ties into social anxiety as well. Whether I'm acting or even just going through a haunted house, there's social triggers in those scenarios as well. So, you know, when I started doing haunted houses, I didn't realize that it was also a step along my journey to overcoming anxiety. So I talk about it, in the book a lot of the different ways that I found to work around my fears.
Are you in the haunted house or you like started one or
Yeah. So I started a haunted house when I was 13 years old, in my parents' garage, and it eventually outgrew the confines of the garage. And I ended up going professional, when I was 18 years old. And I've been doing haunted houses professionally almost ever since. And
where people like go to during the Halloween time and go.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you wouldn't see
I'll
me there. But I'll promote it. Where do you do it? You could talk about it even though it has where's the one that you do?
So right now, I'm focusing on the book
Uh-huh.
this year.
Yeah.
So we're not doing a haunted house this
Oh,
year.
not this year. Okay.
Um, the last one I did was in Chicago, Illinois, and
Mhm.
it was a charity haunted house for the after school teen program. So it was
Oh,
to
that's
help
so
inner
cool.
city kids, find a creative outlet, keep them kind of off the streets, and building better habits around business and marketing, and also building a sense of community in their organization. And we did that up until the pandemic, and then obviously, we shut down. But then after that, I haven't really done too much. I've done some consulting work at other haunted
Mhm.
houses, briefly, and every year I try to act in at least one
Oh,
to
nice,
keep the
nice.
spirit alive.
But you know what? I feel like now that with the pandemic changing, like the haunted house, the business model of that is kind of neat. It's just, I mean, you could probably, pop up them wherever, whether it's haunted house or escape rooms or whatever those things are. That's just different and
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah, I think
That's cool.
there's a rejuvenation in the haunted house market, and I love to see, there's been a whole bunch of new ones that pop up every year, and I love to go to all of them.
That's cool. And totally off of it, but I'm just wondering, being that you're in this talking about social anxiety, I wonder, if there's a way to like incorporate that in a way of like getting over your fears or something. I don't know, like a some sort of something, but who knows? That's
Yeah.
another day. We'll have to have you on for another talk. So let's dive into kind of about you. You know, you obviously took the time to dive into this. Don't, shut up, don't talk. And then yours, so does it don't is it don't talk, or it's
Don't shut up.
don't shut up. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm the
it's
opposite. I feel like I talk too much. You probably talk less than me. And I have to pause more. So I'm on the other end of the spectrum.
well, and that's
For
okay,
what?
and that's okay because
Right.
those are both natural stress responses. A lot of times people think that social anxiety is only people who shy away and don't talk in social interactions.
Right.
But sometimes it can manifest as over speaking as well. You're trying to fill the space. You're a people pleaser. You want that social validation, but you have the same fear. It just manifests in a different way. So I try to, tell all of my clients and anyone who asks, it's okay however your fears manifest, as long as you can recognize them in yourself and consciously kind of work through your own symptoms and become a better speaker in the process.
I couldn't agree more. It's really taking that time to kind of reset and pause there. Um, so how did this kind of develop through the years? Like, was there an incident like when you were younger that kind of said, I need to be quiet? Was it just like someone said, don't talk, and then from then on you were like, I'm never talking again? Or what exactly happened that kind of triggered that?
Yeah, I think it was, just a combination of incidents. I wasn't a very popular child.
Being
And
popular doesn't mean anything nowadays. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah. I mean, back in my day, I sound old now, but back in my day, that was kind of a big part of adolescence was, were you
Right. I
cool? Were
think it
you
is,
not
right? You
cool?
want to feel popular.
Yeah. And I was never really part of that group. And I think there were a lot of instances where, I would speak up and then would be put down. And that kind of reinforced those feelings of anxiety. And there was actually an inciting incident that made me realize maybe I should get over this fear. And it was actually in sixth grade. My social anxiety had gotten so bad that I couldn't read out loud. And I was labeled a special needs student because I couldn't read. But the frustrating part was I knew that I could read. But despite all that, I was still put in special reading classes, isolated from my fellow classmates, and felt humiliated. At the end of sixth grade, my mother actually noticed that I was reading a book to my brother before bed and said, "Hey, if he can't read, how's he reading right now?" Then went to my teacher and said, "Hey, you need to give him a silent reading test." And I scored right within the normal range and was taken out of those silent reading classes. And that was kind of a realization moment for me that if I didn't learn how to communicate better, I would be left behind or put into these special classes for the rest of my life, which I really didn't want to be in at the time. So that was kind of the inciting incident of wanting to overcome that anxiety. And since then, it's been, small incremental movements in the right direction since sixth grade to overcome it.
That's pretty profound that you kind of um realized even back then. I feel like in sixth grade I had no clue. Um, I mean, I definitely had made a lot of I had a lot of I'll talk about in my own thing, my own learning disabilities and stuff and how to overcome. I didn't figure that stuff out until like late teens, 20s. So the fact that you were thinking about it in sixth grade and your mom was your advocate, like that's pretty profound. I think that's awesome that you had, people in your family to support you. What were other kind of situations that challenged you to like change, and have more of a voice?
Yeah. So obviously, as you get older, there's more situations for social interaction. You get into high school and you want to start dating, you get into college and you have the largest pool of people your age that you ever associated with. And each time I would move through those stages in my life, I would continue to push myself even farther to kind of become a better speaker in whatever area was most pertinent. So by the time I had gotten into college and was really progressing as a speaker, I started to become a DJ. And part of being a DJ was having to be on the mic and talk to the crowd, which absolutely terrified me. But I continued to push myself. I got hooked up with a great mentor and friend who helped me along the way. And I actually worked for him for several years as a DJ and eventually an MC, which is where I learned kind of the majority of my tips and tricks on how to be a better public speaker. And through that relationship and so many others, I was able to practice on a regular basis my public speaking and interpersonal communication until I felt that I was at a point where I had really gotten my anxiety under control to the point that I could dedicate my life to speaking.
That's amazing. I mean, that takes a lot, you know. Um, were you like Are you speaking now pretty regularly, or with the pandemic, that things might have changed, but do you speak like on like YouTube or, online for people to reach out, and do you do classes? I know that you're doing your book, but um ways for people to like learn these techniques too?
Yeah, so I do speak regularly. Right now, it's mostly at conferences and trade
Mhm.
shows.
Yeah,
So just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Greensville, South Carolina, giving a presentation. And in a week, next week, right after the book launch, I'll be in Chicago, Illinois, doing another presentation for a conference. I do personal coaching as well. So
great.
if someone wants, a more personal approach after reading the book, they can always reach out on my website for more personalized coaching. And then I also obviously will come to any event to present on the benefits of better personal communication, how to overcome anxiety. I would love if the book did well enough that I could do kind of a speaking tour where it's open to the public and anyone could come. I think that would just be super beneficial to all of the millions of people who suffer from social anxiety if they could come and see me in person and pick up some tips and tricks that way as
That
well.
would be amazing. I mean, I usually don't talk about the pandemic too much, but being that it's kind of come out of, we're toward the tip end of that, I feel it more and more people from the research and from what I'm seeing is that there is so many people that were behind a screen talking to someone that, they're probably having so much anxiety just in general, and then add the social aspect to it.
Absolutely. I think the release of the book is incredibly timely.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
perfect. It's perfect.
you know, so many people feel like they took a step back over the last couple of years in their progression as a speaker because we weren't able to go out and interact in person. Virtually there's a little bit of a disconnect. And now that we're back to in-person communication and especially large group settings, I think there's a newfound anxiety that's crept up in a lot of people, including myself. My first presentation back, I was pretty nervous. I hadn't done it in over a year. And I was like, man, am I still going to be good? Am I rusty? How's it going to go? So I think a lot of people have those same feelings.
I can only imagine. Do you have do you have any siblings? Like or are you only child?
I do. I have three. I've got two older sisters and one younger brother.
Do you
So I'm in the
test them
middle.
out like when it comes to like your speaking, or do they help you along the way? Or are they ever had any
Uh,
struggles with that?
they have asked for tips and things from time to time. We're all, adults now and they kind of have their own
Totally.
lives as well. But I feel fortunate that I have been able to speak at all of their weddings. I've gotten to,
Cool.
participate more in their lives than I think, I would if I wasn't able to, speak in front of others. Which is a big topic that I talk about all the time, which is when you don't feel confident in your speaking ability, you miss out on amazing opportunities that kind of really make life that amazing experience that you hope for.
That's so important to like, shall I say, point out in the sense of things that you'll miss out on, or things that you think that you can't do because you may not be communicating or conveying the message properly. But you've always seemed to have had the message. You just had to have the voice opened. And it sounds like you brought it, out into light. I can relate to that in a different way, but I mean, I think for me it was more of just different messages. I think communication is so important, and it has to be conveyed a certain way, or not even a certain way, in your own message, right? Um, what inspired you, like, to kind of go forth and kind of write a book, and inspired you, or was there an individual or some quote or that said, "Hey, I got to put this out there"?
Yeah, so it was a close friend of mine, quite a few years ago now, actually, came to me and asked, "Hey, I've got a presentation for work. Do you have any tips?" And in that moment, I started my response and I jokingly said, "Oh, I could probably fill a book at this point." And it was really like that light bulb moment of, "Oh, hey, maybe other people could benefit from this knowledge as well." So the book was really written kind of for that one person, that friend of mine, but it is applicable to so many other
Oh,
people,
a
really
100%,
anyone that
100%. That person was just your catalyst.
yeah.
Your
uh,
catalyst to your growing, there's, as someone had told me the other day, there's 7 billion people on this earth, there in the internet. There is one person, if not many of individuals that are troubled with anxiety, and that will get tips from you, that need to know what to do because they're afraid and they might feel lost or what. I don't know, what was your feelings? What kind of feelings did you have? This is not a question I usually ask, but what kind of feelings did you have when before you were about to do something that you were anxious? Like, you're like, "Oh, I had anxious." What was that feeling like
yeah, so it's
before
really,
you overcame it or as you were trying to overcome it?
yeah, and even to this day, I feel strange saying the word overcome,
Mhm.
uh, because I don't think you ever really truly,
Manage maybe?
yeah, manage is a better word for it. But even to this day, the feelings a lot are of inadequacy, self worth, self doubt, and the acceptance of others. And in those moments when I really am feeling anxious, I get that tightness in my chest. For
Mhm.
me, that's my signal. Hey, your nerves are kicking in. Now we need to start managing our symptoms and redirecting this energy in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
So, understanding your own stress response and your own triggers really can help you manage those symptoms and redirect that energy into your presentation, into that interaction, and benefit the outcome instead of hinder it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Having more of those positive words and thoughts, and kind of reiterating that over and over for yourself. That's awesome. Um, would you have a little tip that you'd like to say to the audience or those watching? Because I'd love for them to reach out to you and get talk about your book and stuff. So discuss that. What's your book and your website so they can reach you first?
Yeah. So the book is Don't Shut Up. It's going to be available on Amazon, Audible, and the Kindle store. You
Wonderful.
can reach me at my website, thespeechadvisor.com. So,
Thespeechadvisor.com. Okay.
yep. And then my one tip that I would leave everyone with is change how you identify yourself. James Clear talks extensively about these things called identity based habits. And I think that it really can have a profound effect on how successful you are in overcoming really any challenge in your life. And it begins with identifying yourself correctly. So, oftentimes, as someone who has social anxiety, we identify as an introvert or we identify as a bad speaker, which are negative things to put on yourself. Instead, you should identify yourself as a confident speaker because that's what you are. I believe everyone has the capability to be a truly confident and great speaker. So when you tell yourself, you identify yourself as a confident speaker, the next time you stand up to speak, it'll be a lot easier to say, I don't need to be nervous. I am a confident speaker. That way, you've got that reinforced image of yourself that you are confident and you don't have those invasive thoughts start to come in saying you're not good enough, you're a bad speaker, you're introverted. You know, all of those negative things can start to bog your process down. So when you change how you identify yourself, all of the rest of the things you need to do to overcome your anxiety become a lot easier along the way.
Thank you for that. I was as you were speaking, I was thinking about all the individuals that you are affecting with teaching this, right? And as another colleague had spoke and said to me that the ripples and the effects of one person that you can change just with that small tip. And for those, and then you were talking about the kids that that you help. And do you think about those kids like that when you were in sixth grade could not read a book? Like, do you go and help them because you're like, oh my god, I got to do this? Because I know for me and my things, I'm like, oh, I got to go and eventually, help these people so they don't struggle as much or make a little
Absolutely.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to pay it forward. I want to make, someone else's life a little bit easier. If I can get them this information before I had access to it, you know, think how far they could be. I kind of have this dream that even if I just help one person, if one person reads the book and they really, find value in it, I have this dream that someday they'll come up to me and be like, "Hey, I read your book and it changed my life. And now I'm a professional speaker, or now I'm,
Yay.
whatever their dream was, it helped them along the way." And that would make it all worthwhile for me.
Oh, it's gonna happen. It's totally gonna happen. I mean, because that's where it comes from. That one ripple effect of one to another to another. That's the way it works, especially when it's these positive like identification and like ways to like really make effects, in the best change. Like that's how you change the world by one little, one small thing. It's not about these like big, it doesn't have to be huge. It's just these like little parts. Well, I really am glad that you're on the show and that you've taken the time. I know that your time is precious. So, I just always love to have everyone, chat and, discuss further. Do you have one thing that I think not I usually end the show in a quick sense, but I was thinking were you like a pretty so like a straight A student back then, or were you like a pretty average student?
I would say like slightly
Above average, yeah.
above average.
That's
Not
good.
anything crazy,
Yeah,
I
you did
got I
well. You
got
did well.
plenty of B's, a couple C's, and I did even get one D once.
Oh,
Um,
once, okay.
but
Right.
I would say I was a pretty normal average kid. But I did really dedicate myself to a handful of things like haunted houses, becoming a better speaker,
Awesome.
and a whole
And
bunch
you're
of
a
other
better
weird
person and you're
things.
a good, sibling and you're a good son to your family and you're a good advocate to all these kids that you're helping. So that I mean it's probably given you even more confidence. Your speaking probably um went beyond that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love to look back at some of the lives that I've touched just in my short time here, um, and it really brings me a sense of purpose.
That's really beautiful. Well, I thank you so much for being on, taking your time, and just giving yourself a few minutes. And I really am excited for your launch. I think that there will be a lot of people that need to hear you. So thanks again for joining in. All your information is going to be on the show notes. So I can't wait for those to reach out to you and have you back on the show for some more conversation. Because I think just anxiety alone, we probably have another layer there that we can talk about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much
Greatly.
for having me.
Of course. Thanks again. And thank you guys for joining in on the Mindfully Integrative Show. And we look forward to you being on again. And make sure that you have each and every day a mindful way.